Welcome, Bronco Nation, to another exciting video. A video that we didn't know was in the cards. I mean, you watched my game review for Boise State versus Utah State. You heard me say, I don't know if we're going to make Mountain West Championship game. I hope we do. I believe that we're going to, but I don't know. I mean, that we all came down to a computer algorithm, and it went back and it spat out Boise State versus UNLV in the Mountain West Championship game. What an up and down season this has been. And I thought the only way to properly culminate a season that has been as crazy as this one is to have on former Mountain West champion Jaylen Henderson, a fan favorite, did so many great things in the back end of his 2019 season, was a huge part, an offensive MVP of the Mountain West Championship game, a huge part of getting the team to that goal. He'll have a unique perspective on some of the same things this team has gone through and also some differences. It's awesome if Jaylon on. You may notice a guest missing. Jason will be joining us. There's a little bit of a time mix-up. He will be joining us a little bit later on in the video. So for any UNLV fans joining us, there's going to be UNLV content for you as well. Before I just introduce Jaylon here, I'm just going to throw out what the video is about for anybody that's new, maybe watching for the first time. Like all of my game previews, we're going to start off just talking about the matchup, Boise State versus UNLV. We'll talk about what this game means. We're not going to do a serious history because we've already talked about UNLV so many times already this year in the last few because we've played them so many times. But we'll talk about the season wrapping up into this, what Boise State went through, what UNLV went through. We'll talk about key players for Boise State and UNLV. We'll talk about keys to the game for Boise State and then wrap up with a score prediction, which I'll talk about the score prediction challenge here in a moment. But Jaylon, thank you so much for joining me on the Bronco Believer Show and getting to talk about this Boise State versus UNLV game. Thanks for being here, man.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, man. It's always exciting when it has something to do with the Broncos. Die hard, love the Broncos to death. Love to talk about the Broncos. Now new recently, and yeah, man, I'm excited. Let's hope we have a good show today.
Well, and also excited to be back in the greatest country on earth as well after a long stint playing some international football as well back in America. I won't go into the whole backstory of what you've been doing since your time at Boise State. I would encourage everybody go check out the video that Jaylon and I did last year. I mean, it seems so much longer than that, but I think it was just last summer that we talked about what he was doing internationally, playing in Europe, playing in Japan previously, playing professional level, a very elite level. I encourage everybody to go check that video out, and I'll put a link to that in the description. But this is going to be an awesome preview. I cannot wait to get through previewing this matchup, a game, again, that we didn't know was going to be on the cards for sure. And here we are staring down Boise State versus UNLV. I want everybody to make sure you participate in the score prediction challenge. Put them in live. I'll be throwing them up at the end. I'll be throwing up your comments. Give me your thoughts on the game as we go throughout, our thoughts on our conversations. If you have any questions for Jaylon, throw them out as well, and I'll try to get to them as we go throughout the video. Make sure, Boise State, UNLV fans, you're participating. But for the score prediction challenge specifically, once the video is done, make sure you go back in and comment on the recording, because otherwise all these comments will disappear and I won't be able to see them. Of course, you are competing to win this Ashton Jeanty jersey. I know that Jalen's got some nice jerseys on the back wall there as well, but this would look good in anyone's collection. Ashton Jeanty jersey. If you get the score prediction right, as many people as get it exactly right will be entered to win the jersey. If nobody gets it exactly right, then just whoever's score prediction is closest. And then before we get any further on, this is a sponsored video, so I will throw out real quick a shout out to our sponsor, Horseshoe Spirit Studios. This is a great way to get into the Christmas spirit season with some spirits, but also support Boise State NIL. Obviously, wasn't a huge factor when Jaylon was playing, unless you were in the SEC in Alabama or something like that. But obviously, now it's a huge part of college football. And buying one of these bottles is a way of supporting Boise State NIL, and you get something that looks great on your shelf and also in your glass. Tastes great in your glass as well. If you don't live in the great state of Idaho, you can buy it online. I'll put a link to the website. 6 more bottles. Shipping is free. Christmas is around the corner. Make sure you grab yourself a bottle and bottles for your family as well. 3 to 6 bottles is 50% off. Of course, if you live in Boise, you can simply buy at any liquor store in southwest of Idaho. Of course, 21 or older. Make sure applicable laws apply within the state within which you reside, and drink responsibly. All right. Let's get into previewing this video. Like I said, Jaylon is a former Boise State legend. He played at Boise State from 2018 to 2019. Previous to that, stints at UTSA and Trinity Valley. And then he had 1,080 yards passing his senior season, which is all the more impressive considering that he only started the last 4 games of that season. But what a 4-game stretch it was. He went 4-0 in that stretch, including culminating victory in the Mountain West Championship in 2019, where he was the offensive MVP MVP, had a combined 263 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then he's been busy since then as well. Stints, like I said, Japan, Germany, and France. So he broke a bunch of records in Germany. Jaylon, what's it like to be here talking about Boise State football once again as a former player who's gone through it yourself?
Yeah, man. I appreciate that. Great question. And, I appreciate the intro. It feels great. It feels great to have, an input and being able to give sort of my opinion. That's something I have to remind a lot of people, it's my opinion, meaning non-factual. It's just what I think based off of my experience. And, I could be right. I could be wrong. That's not really what it is about. It's just about, voicing my opinion. And I enjoy conversation too. I love to talk about and see the different perspectives because I can give a different perspective from actually have gone through there and being in those doors and stuff. So, it's a great feeling to be able to do that, especially as an alumni. And, we've got a lot of great alumni there as well that are playing NFL on Sundays that do a lot of good things for the program. And just to be right there with them and able to talk about the Broncos, something that I enjoy. I really enjoy it. So.
Well, Boise State versus UNLV in the Mountain West Championship game is going to be on Fox, 6 p.m. Mountain Central Time on Friday. Boise State favored by 3.5 points, given a 67% chance of winning. But like I said, it was a crazy road to get here for Boise State. UNLV, a little bit more straightforward. They did come down to computer rankings. But in the end, for Boise State, a team that ended up 8-4, had to go to the computer rankings. And it was an up and down journey for Boise State. It starts off with a loss versus USF, and then they win 3 straight, then lose to Notre Dame. Then they win 3 more with New Mexico, UNLV, and Nevada. And then they go and lose 2, and then they win 2 to finish season. I mean, literally the definition of up and down. You've actually had the opportunity to watch quite a few of these games. I think all of these games this season, now that you've been back over here on a normal time zone with the rest of the college football matchups. What have been your thoughts watching this Boise State team this year?
Man, I've always loved everything about the Broncos. Whether our seasons are ugly seasons or good seasons, somehow we always end up in the championship and with the chance to win it all. And that's just a testament of, one, Jeremiah Dickey and what he's brought there, the entire transformation, from Kurt Apsey to what he's done. And I've been able to just sort of sit back and, see what he's done to the staff that he's brought in, to ultimately the players that have come through. And so, there's been some happy and high moments, right? And then there's been some frustration as a fan. I feel the same thing being a Cowboys fan sometimes. There's a lot of frustration. Right now, as a Cowboys fan, I'm really happy, right? At times during this season with Boise State, there were times that I was not happy with the product that I was seeing on the field, just because I know the epitome. I know that what it means to be a Boise State football player. And there were at times that, although guys were wearing uniforms, not really sure if we played how Boise State football should be played. And there were times where, we did play how Boise State football should be played. But the one thing that you can't take away is, we have battled through injuries big time within the program. And what game do we have coming up this Friday? We're still in the championship. Talk about resiliency, right? There's one thing that always lingers, and it's just how resilient the Broncos are. And that's something that carries on through past traditions, past generations of Boise State football, right? That's something you learn what it means to be a Bronco when you're walking in there on your first days of, being a young guy, walking into Boise State, eyes big, wow, right? You learn what it means to really bleed blue. And so that's something that I can say has been consistent every single year that I've watched. And it's always ended us in the championship somehow. And, we haven't won every single one, but we've won a lot more than we lost. Let's say that. So, yeah, man, that's how I feel. And I'm excited. I'm excited for the game. Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you guys also. I see the comments. Good to see you guys.
I'll ask you here in a moment what these players are probably thinking coming in this as a player yourself, some of your own memories and emotions coming into this championship game. A game that while the season record might have been better overall, there was still adversity. I mean, a lot of adversity you had to go through. So that's similar in that sense. So I'll ask you that question here in a moment. So, but while you kind of chew on that, I will try to present a little bit of the UNLV side of here to fill in for Jason until he arrives, just to kind of look back at UNLV season, Boise State seasons, highs and lows. Team finding itself after Ashton Genty, having to rebuild a lot more than a lot of people were expecting. And then really the back end of this year, really finding a lot of energy and passion that, like you said, at times didn't always seem like it was there, but it really showed up, especially the last couple of games of Boise State, that Utah State game, to battle through the worst refereeing I've ever watched in my entire life. I'm not going to make any claims of anything else, but I mean, definitely not good officiating. To battle through the way they did is incredible. On UNLV's side of things, they've had a little bit of an easier journey, literally. I mean, they've had one of the easiest schedules in the Mountain West. Doesn't mean they don't deserve to be here, but it does mean that they haven't faced as much adversity. UNLV opened up the season with 6 straight wins, which didn't really include many wins against anyone. They did get a win versus UCLA, so that stood out. And then they lost 2 games that almost ended up sinking their Mountain West championship hopes. They lost to Boise State and to New Mexico. But then they rallied back to finish 4 wins. Again, not really beating very many teams except for Hawaii, though. So the question still remains, we just don't know how good is this UNLV team. But mentally, for them, coming into this matchup, regardless of how good they may or may not be, they right now, for UNLV, they're sitting at a point where they're looking at the team to replace Boise State in the new look Mountain West, right? Boise State, the big dog, you said the perennial Mountain West championship contender. Well, look back the last 3 years, this year included, who's been right there with Boise State? It's being UNLV. And who's been the one team that's kept them from their goals? The Boise State Broncos. And so they're expecting, now that Boise State's moving on, to take over that chair at the top of the conference. And so for them, this is very much a validating appearance in this championship game. While Boise State really wasn't sure computer rankings wise whether it was going to work out, UNLV had a lot of confidence they were going to end up here. And for them, this is a validation that they are that team to take over from Boise State. And they would love nothing more to steal the crown on their way out the door as well. So this is a huge matchup for Boise State and UNLV. That's a little bit, at least, what I'm seeing from the UNLV perspective. Jaylen, for this matchup from the Boise State side of things, we talked about adversity, players having to rally through. Now they're sitting here. They found out a couple days ago that they're going to be playing in the Mountain West Championship game, which is only a few days from now. What do you think that feeling is like? And just for yourself as a player who's stood on the precipice of a Mountain West Championship matchup.
Well, that's a great question. And I think, your synopsis of UNLV, before we get to the question, you have to credit to Coach Dan Mullen and what he's done with that program. He's completely done a 360 there and brought them from whenever whenever my years had UNLV, that was like, cupcake game, right? It was not a tough game for us. Whereas, then you bring in Dan Mullen and look at him now, consistently being successful, right? So that's pretty much good. That's, credit to Dan Mullen right there. Now back to your question, you're asking what are the players feeling right now? I'll tell you what they're feeling, okay? It is end of the season. Nobody's healthy. I know guys are playing in games, but everybody's banged up right now. Everybody's feeling the bumps and bruises of the season. You're feeling what I like to call the monkey getting on your back towards the end of the season. But given the offseason and the preparation that I know Coach Danielson and coaches before him and before them have instilled there at Boise State, they prepare you for this time in the season. So those guys, they're going to be prepared. They're going to be prepared. They're going to be excited. They know that they have a championship game on the blue. And anytime you play on the blue, it's definitely personal for everybody. And when you play a championship on the blue, it's for sure personal for everybody. So, yeah, there might have bumps and bruises or whatever. UNLV as well. They're probably going to be banged up. They're probably going to be hurting. It's going to be a tough game, tough atmosphere to play in. I was at the championship game last year, and it's similar weather to what it was last year. And I remember it being foggy, overcast, night game, and then you just have BSU fans roaring. That is an environment that if I live in Las Vegas where it's 70 degrees, 80 degrees, right now, I don't even know what it is. If I live in Las Vegas, yeah, I'm pumped up to go and play in that game, but I would much, much rather be playing in the warmth, right? Whereas BSU, these guys, their blood is already thickened up, right? They're used to the cold, used to this atmosphere. They're gonna be fired up. I think they'll be ready to go. So that's how they're feeling right now. Obviously, there'll be little nerves there. Guys who this is their first time playing in the game, there will be a little bit of nerves there. Even Mad Dog probably there's gonna be nerves there, right? It's normal. It's normal to feel nerves, but one thing that I always used to do when I would feel the nerves is I would just trust my preparation. I would understand that, I'm prepared to be in this moment. I'm prepared. Like, I've done all the work. The hay is in the barn, right? I just got to go out there and play, So once the bullets start flying, guys will feel better. They'll feel all right. But yeah, they're definitely taking this week like they've taken other weeks, but they definitely want to win the game. They're doing everything that they can, and they're excited for sure.
Well, and for Boise State, again, this was a game you did control. You can control. That's a big thing that gets preached at Boise State, and they did everything they could, and then said, "Hey, it's up to outside factors at this point, literally outside factors of the computer rankings that were secret that you didn't even know what was going to happen." And for them, this is like a bonus. It's almost like a nothing to lose type situation. And obviously, you don't want to lose Mountain West Championship game, but it's not like Boise State's undefeated in this matchup and they have everything on the line and it was just guaranteed. This is a game that is a blessing for the players, and I'm sure that opportunity to play one more game on the blue, which the last time they played was not guaranteed, to have that mentality and that emotion, I'm sure is going to fire them exponentially. I can't wait to see it. Here's just a little update here from Jason he's almost home. He is almost home. He is going to be here soon. He is on his way again. Sorry to any UNLV fans. This has been pretty Boise State centric. I mean, it is a Boise State channel after all, but we will have stuff for UNLV. I promise it's coming up right around the corner. Jason will join us, and then we're going to have some keys to the game and some key players for UNLV as well. So UNLV fans, write it out. They'll be here soon. But to kind of tide us over, this was planned anyway, and this kind of works out great. This is a conversation piece that I think will help bridge the gap between talking about the expectations for these players and getting into our top players for this game. And I get accused quite often on this channel when I have guests on that all I do is agree with them. And so a lot of times that's the truth. I mean, I have a lot of guests on that we all have very similar mentalities and mindsets. We're all Boise State fans. Obviously, my guests are a lot more expert at than I am because they actually got to play at Boise State. But, a lot of times I do end up agreeing with my guests. However, this time I actually got a little bit of a new thing for everyone. I actually disagree with Jaylon over something. So we're going to talk about that. This is kind of what actually spurred him coming on the channel in the first place. We were going a little bit back and forth on Twitter, respectfully, of course. And then I went into the DMs and said, hey, let's come on the channel and talk about it and get your perspective on the game overall. And so this is something that a lot of Boise State fans, not just me, have talked about, but Jaylon's got a very unique perspective, and I think it's worth fans hearing out. So for Boise State fans looking at this game, obviously, I think kind of that elephant in the room is the quarterback controversy or not controversy. The coaches made it very clear that Max Mattson is going to be the starter. There's been different takes on that. And I think, again, it kind of just depends on which side of the pendulum we fall, the full glass half full or glass half empty a little bit. I tend to end up right in the middle, which is why I don't really make fans on either side of that spectrum. But for Boise State, Max Mattson, obviously, he was the starter for Boise State all the way up until a few games ago. Fresno State, game I actually was able to fly in for, ended up taking an injury that just furthered another injury he'd had versus Air Force, ended up getting knocked out of that game, and he's had to be on the bench the last four. Now, Boise State in that time has had start Max Cutforth, who's gone 2-2, 2 games lost in a row, and then he got his feet under him. The offense picked up a little bit, and he won the last 2, which is part of the reason. Obviously, what Mattson did early in the year is a big part of that, but it's part of the reason that Boise State finds themselves in this Mountain West Championship game. Now, obviously, there are some similarities being drawn to the 2019 season. So we look at 2019, Boise State team where Hank Bachmeier is the quarterback. He ends up getting injured. I forget which game that was. Hawaii, I want to say. I'm blanking on the exact matchup, but anyhow, it was about 7 games in the season. He ends up getting hurt. He goes out. Cord steps in. He ends up getting hurt. Boise State finds themselves on their 3rd string quarterback, which, as we know, is Jaylen Henderson. He does what he does to finish the season off. Well, the bowl game rolls around, and Boise State has to make a choice. They go with Hank Bachmeier. Jaylon ends up starting in the second half, around midway through the 3rd quarter. a lot of fans are drawing comparisons to those two situations, right? Your situation in 2019 and the current situation we have with Madsen. Some saying start Cutforth. He's fresh. He's not rusty. He led us this far. Others saying Madsen was a starter. He deserves to be there. And you have a little bit of a different take on this. So what is your perspective? Is there any similarities between now and what happened in 2019? And do you think that it's fair to start Maddox Madsen versus starting the hotter right now, the last two games, Max Cutforth?
This is a great question, and I am excited to talk about this topic because I've been seeing it all week on Twitter. I've been seeing, the debate of, we should start Max, we should start Mad Dog, and I love the conversation. I love that we're talking about it. The thing that I will say, whoever starts, that is not our main problem that we got to worry about. What I think that we need to worry about is penalties. Number one, we need to not get penalties. We can't let ourselves get in penalty trouble because it doesn't matter what quarterback is in. If we're getting so many penalties on offense, defense, whatever it is, it's going to be tough to win the game. And I think on defense as well, I think it's important that on defense, we have got to wrap up. We've got to tackle. We've got to play sound football at our linebacker position. When we get a chance to catch an interception, we've got to catch the interception. On offense, when we get a chance to catch the football, we have got to come down with the football. There's no more time for my bads. This is the championship game. The championship game. There's no more time to miss and whiff on a tackle. So these are things that I think are very important that sort of people are being blinded by who should start at QB. Now, both of our QBs this season, we'll start with Mad Dog. Mad Dog, I don't think necessarily had as good of a season as he had last year. And I feel like, there's a lot of psychological stuff that can go into it, especially from the mind of a quarterback. There's a lot of pressure, right? He's got the entire town and every single fan of whoever loves Boise State right here in the palm of his hands. And he's what, 21 or 23 years old, 22?
I think it's 22, 23.
It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, man. Like, it's not easy. But he played good. At the end of the day, he's our starter right now. He's the starting quarterback. He was out 4 games. Now, to bring up the situation of what happened in 2019, we had a freshman quarterback who played well for 7 games, gave us all that he could for 7 games until he went out. Next quarterback comes in, Chase Cord, plays well for those 3 games I believe he started. We lost 1 to BYU, but he played well. I come in, played pretty well, win the championship, etc., and then come around and bowl game comes around and don't start. The difference in this situation between me and back then is Max Cutforth has played 4 games, correct? But he's played 2 games that he's won, 2 games that he's lost. Those games that he's won have been the Utah State game. That was a little scary, right? That was a little scary that it wasn't like a demanding win. Whereas when I was, and I'm not comparing, like I think the world of both QBs, and I've trained Max. Kid is a dog, right? I think he's really good. But whenever I played it, it was like we were commandingly winning games. It was like, no question, wow. And there was a lot of people that were like, wow, where's this been at the whole season, right? I don't think there was that same reaction whenever Max started. And granted, that could have been out of his control, right? His first, I believe they kept the training wheels on him a little too much in that first, was it the San Diego State, in the San Diego State game, right? Believe they kept the training wheels on him. But I haven't really felt like wow, where's this kid been the whole year, I still feel, and then you got to take into account as well. Okay, and I'll give you an example on why I feel like I think we should start Mad Dog in the game, okay? So Mad Dog hasn't played ball. He hasn't seen live bullets live. Probably he's practiced, but he hadn't seen live bullets for about a month. Let's just say, give or take, more or less, for about a month, right? Max has been playing really well. Championship game and any other game, there's definitely some nerves there. There's definitely a lot of pressure. You definitely feel more pressure in the championship game than just a regular exhibition game. say what you want. I'm just giving my personal experience. You definitely feel more pressure in that championship game. And so the reason why I say you start Mad Dog is because you give your original starter. He's our guy that won the job in the spring. You give him the starting job, right? I say you give him 2 to 3 drives, okay? See, is he ready to go or not? He's been out, but we don't have time to wait until third quarter later to see if he's ready or not. This is the championship game, last game of the season. This is for all the marbles. This is what we worked so hard for over the offseason. This is what it's all for. So we go with him as our starter. In the event he's not ready to go, and what that does to you psychologically as Max sitting on the sideline, by him not starting psychologically, he's licking his chops. He's hungry. Like, damn, bro, I want to go play. Like, I should be on the field right now. Granted, that it's not anything selfish, but if you're a competitor, you definitely don't want to be standing on the sideline.
Right.
So anything, you're going to be on the sideline antsy. You're going to be on the sideline, right, licking your chops, ready to go play. So you give Mad Dog 2 to 3 drives. We go down and score. You roll with Mad Dog. That's our starter, right? The season didn't start out. This is not Max's season to be the Boise State starter. He started out as the backup. This is Mad Dog's season, who won the job in the spring to be the starter. You give Mad Dog 2 to 3 drives. Okay, we go down and score. You keep him in. Great. You keep him in. Let's go score. Let's go win the game. Okay, Max, we appreciate what you did while you were here. Okay, but our starter is back in. You can look at any NFL team just about, right? Brock Purdy went out. Mac Jones came in. And Mac Jones was the biggest advocate. Hey, guys, Brock Purdy, I want to let you know, Brock Purdy is our starter. I know I'm playing right now and we're getting wins, but Brock Purdy is the starter of this team. I'm just doing the role of what a backup is supposed to do. Come in there and perform when my number is called, right? So and that's one example. And then you can go, I can't remember. Oh, yeah. CJ Stroud, Davis Mills. Davis Mills comes in, wins 3 games in a row, right? CJ Stroud comes back in. They lose, of course, but then we can do the same thing. Joe Flacco, right? Joe Burrow goes out. He's been out since week 2, right? Comes in right when he's healthy. It's not like, oh, Joe Flacco, you're our guy now. They benched their guy. They brought in Joe Flacco later, right? But at the end of the day, whenever the starter became healthy, throw him back in there. So I say you start Mad Dog because you have a lot more than you can lose, or there's a lot more upside to starting him. Because say he does go in there and does not play well, Max is going to be ready to go now. Max is going to be ready to go play. He's psychologically, he's already thinking I should have been the starter, so he's already pissed off. When he goes in that game, he's like, see, I'm going to show you guys why I should have been the starter. And he's going to go sling it like he's been slinging it. Now, let me give you the other side of the spectrum, okay? Let's say you start Max. You start Max in the game. Remember the psychological aspect of this is the championship game. There's definitely going to be some nerves there. He is going to feel nerves. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how prepared you are. He's going to feel some type of nerves. And if he's going to feel some type of nerves, right? He goes in there and plays great as a starter, great. We can carry on to Valhalla, right? But say he doesn't go in there and we can't get anything going. Say he goes in there and we can't get anything going, whatever it is. Then we have to resort to a guy. Our next option is a guy that hasn't seen live bullets in 4 weeks. Do we really feel the most comfortable with that? So I'm just playing devil's advocate, right? You can't expect that everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows every single time. I just like to play devil's advocate. Well, what if the worst possible scenario happens? Are we going to be screwed, right? And I just feel personally, you start Mad Dog. If he doesn't do well, I know Max is going to be hungry, ready to go, rather than starting Max. And then if he doesn't play well, you can't rely that Mad Dog is going to be ready to go without he hasn't seen live bullets in the past 4 weeks. The out of all of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL that were injured and came back, the only one who got a win in their first game coming back was Joey Burrow. Everybody else, Brock Purdy, his first game coming back, horrid, terrible, bad, not good. So you mean to tell me you want to put yourself in that type of predicament? So that's sorry I went a little long with that, but bottom line, I just feel like you can protect yourself. It's almost like giving yourself insurance by starting Mad Dog, and you can't really go wrong with starting him because you have a healthy guy that can play, ready to go right behind him in the event that you need to bring that healthy guy in. Whereas if you start with this healthy guy and we need to make some changes quick, what are you going to do? Go to somebody who it's like, well, we hope he's ready to go. We hope, we know you haven't taken a hit or seen live bullets in 4 weeks. Championship game. Oh, well, we hope you're ready to go. And that's all we got. So that's my reasoning. And, I am open to hearing discussion. I'm not saying I'm right by any means. I mean, technically we know who's starting now, but I don't say stuff or type stuff on Twitter for me to be right and somebody else to be wrong. That's not the business that I'm in. I just give my opinion based off of, what I've seen. And yeah, that's how I feel about it. So
I appreciate that.
I do think, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I do think that this week in practice and Coach Danielson and that staff, they're going to have both of them prepared and ready to go. I do think that they both need viable reps this week in practice. I think you give them both one's reps. I think you prepare them both to be the starter, right? I think you have, I don't know how much Mad Dog is going to be able to do. I saw a video of him throwing the ball. He definitely looked like he was limping a little bit, right? And that's who knows what the circumstances are. I'm just watching a video. The kid could feel like $1 million. I have no idea. But, I don't know. I like both of them, obviously. I think they both can spin it. But I think that by going with that philosophy of starting Mad Dog and then in the event something does go wrong, because we know Mad Dog can win us games. We know Max can win us games. Who's won us more games? Who's played more football for us? So it doesn't make no sense to put Mad Dog on the bench if he's healthy and can play. And I guarantee you he's probably not 100%. And I guarantee you both quarterbacks are going to see the field. Both quarterbacks are going to play probably at some point. What is going to be tough for them and what's going to be tough for Mad Dog is playing now. And what's going to be tough for Mad Dog is playing knowing that I could possibly get pulled. He's been able to play very, very loose, right? Same thing with Max. Max has came in. He's been able to play really loose. Like, oh yeah, I know I'm not coming out the game. I'm going to sit back here and sling and throw it. They're not going to take me out, right? Whereas, again, if you start Max, now he's playing with, dang, I can't mess up because if I mess up, they're going to take me out. You cannot play your best football doing that. You cannot play your best football doing that. And that's going to be tough for Mad Dog, too. It's going to be tough for Mad Dog to be in there. But at least one of them is 100%. One of them is not 100%. One of them is, I don't know if Max is 100%. I have no idea. But do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like,
no, I understand. I also appreciate what you were saying about, you put it out on Twitter, you come on here, not because you are 100% right, but because you're opening up a discussion, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole heart and soul of the channel, and why I have guys like Jason who I'm actually glad you went long because it gave time for Jason to jump in on backstage. I'll be throwing him in here in a moment once we finish this discussion piece and get on with the rest of the video. But I'm glad that you bring up that counter perspective because I think that's valuable. It's only through that discussion and intercourse of the different facts and ideas that we're actually end up being able to find some kind of objective truth in the end. So I will counter a couple of things that you said here, and we obviously don't want to make this an hour-long conversation about Madsen or cut forth. I'll bring up a couple of things, and there were some comments that came down while we were having that conversation. I'll throw those up as well because I think they kind of duplicate some of my own thoughts. I totally get what you're saying. I think that's a very good point about the experience level of Madsen in this game. Right, this isn't just a regular game. This is the Mountain West Championship game. And regardless of what the players want to say, it is important and it is very much different. One game at a time, right? Same mentality, but this is the Mountain West Championship game. This has a trophy. This is the last time in the conference. There is a lot more pressure. Now, there was a lot of pressure versus Utah State as well, and you can argue that, but this is a whole nother level of pressure that either quarterback is going to have to experience. And Madsen's experience in that level, sir, as a quarterback who has already played UNLV and actually played some of his best games versus UNLV, that's a huge positive for him to have. A couple of things I want to bring up, though, that I think maybe counterpoint a little bit or at least get your perspective on. Yep. The first one is this idea of Maddox Madsen starting off, and then if he's not playing well, Cutforth can come in. And we'll kind of sidestep whether or not the coaches will actually do this because we're talking hypotheticals right now anyway. We don't know what's in the coaches' minds. Obviously, like you've said on Twitter, the coaches are here to win. Loyalty plays a factor at times as well, but we're gonna sidestep all that. Let's just say the coaches are gonna go with that philosophy. If Madsen is not doing well in the first few drives or first half, then Cutforth is gonna come into the game. Let's say that's the thought process. The issue I have is, like you said, Cutforth is more inexperienced. Yeah, he's played hot the last couple of games, but he doesn't have that same ironclad mentality that a senior starter he's a junior, but a veteran starter like Maddox Madsen has. And I think when you have to throw a quarterback into the game where Boise State, if they're making a swap, they're not doing very well. There's been something that's happened. Maybe they've thrown a pick six, or UNLV has a couple score game. Now you have to come back from behind. That is a huge, huge mental game for a young quarterback. Whereas if Max Cutforth starts and he's playing and he's got the hot hand, he's got the momentum, he doesn't have to sit, he doesn't have the deflating feeling of being taken off the line. When I used to talk about quarterbacks saying, like, I'm just keeping the bench warm, that was not what Max Cutforth said in the interviews when he was announced as the starter. He said, I'm here to compete for the starting job. He said, I want to have a role on this team, to paraphrase. But he basically said, like, I'm not just here to keep the bench warm. I want to be a starter for Boise State. He's a local kid. You grew up watching Boise. It's a great story. But that's his dream. That's his goal. And so he has all this momentum. If you now have Max Madsen starts, then Max Cutforth has to come into the game. That's a different mentality versus if Max Cutforth starts, he doesn't play very well. Then you have your veteran, Maddox Madsen, who knows what this game level, that's not going to be shied by any environment. He now has the opportunity to prove himself, which I think when we look at Maddox Madsen, he's a dog, right? He's Mad Dog. He fights the hardest. He plays his best football when the chips are against him. Anytime that he has a poor game and the fans are just blasting him, players say they don't read social media, but something leaks through. But anytime that he has a bad game and he has his best performance the very next game. He fights the best when he has to prove something. And he played his best football when he unseated a future SEC starter in Taylon Green. He played his best football when he had to come up against a former 5-star in Malachi Nelson. And he has to come off the bench to win the game that nobody thought that he was going to be able to do when he got unseated by the sophomore in Max Cutforth. I just think that mentally there's a little bit of a different edge there. The second point, I know it's kind of a little long in the first one, but the second point is that Maddox, the offense right now is maybe not as scoring as dominantly as they have in previous games. The margins may not be as wide, but if you watch the offensive flow, it just feels like the last couple of games that it's been a different style of offense. Boise State's gone away from being as run heavy. I mean, it's not 47 runs up the middle was versus Nevada. They've gone away from being so run heavy that it seems to take the air out of the pass, and they've gone into that quick passing game. That's whether it's a height issue or whatever it is, the offenses seem to flow better in the quick passing game, those quick outs, those short, quick passes to the middle for Max Cutforth than they did when Max Madsen was in. The offense seems to be flowing better. The deep ball, well, they are not completing as many, but they are taking more shots. The deep pass, the passing game overall, the offense itself seems to be clicking at a higher pace. They had a trick play. I mean, they hadn't had any trick plays really all season, and then they had a trick play, Cam Bates throwing it over to Wagner for a first down. There's a different mentality here. And I just worry, that idea of if it's not broke, don't fix it. This Boise State offense is clicking right now. They're winning 2-0. That was a challenging game last week versus Utah State where they had to play, 11 guys and the refs on that field. Yeah, I just feel like if you mix that up, it can be hard to regain that energy and that mentality. And maybe from the offensive coordinator position, you have a certain style for Madsen you plan through with practice. Then you have a certain style for Max. And if you don't have if Max is going to be the guy, if he's going to be the one that ends up finishing this game, if Madsen's not 100%, which I just don't know if there's any way he can possibly be 100% in this game, if he's not physically up to completing this matchup, it's going to be like Fresno State trying to put Cutforth into an offense that's designed for Maddox Madsen versus an offense that's a little bit better to Max Cutforth's level. The third and final point that I'll have on this, and it kind of goes to what I just talked about, and I'd like your perspective as a guy who was the third string, who had to come in as the starter when you hadn't had all these reps. The reps, right? Maddox Madsen, yes, chemistry is a big thing, but he's had all these years to develop this time with these guys. He knows his guys. He knows what their pace is. He knows when he throws a ball in that direction, at a certain point, they're going to go out and get you that catch. Max Cutforth's at a little different level, right? He hasn't been the guy start playing with the ones all season. He hasn't been the guy. I mean, that's the reason that so many young guys are stepping up, because he has that chemistry with, the younger guys that are on the second team, like Quentin Brown and some of these other guys that aren't your primary wide receivers. That for me, I feel like the reps are more beneficial for a more inexperienced quarterback like Max Cutforth, and Maddox Madsen has the experience to make up for maybe not as many reps with the ones coming into game week. So that's my three kind of counterpoints there, is just that mentality difference, putting in Maddox Madsen in the second half versus Cutforth, and that kind of mentality of who has the more senior hand. The thought process of the offensive style flowing so well right now, why would you want to mess that up? And then the third, and not just mess it up, but how do you shift from one offense that's maybe a little better for one quarterback versus the other? And then the third and final point is just those reps. And again, we'll finish this. I'm not going to counterpoint Jaylon. He'll give his perspective, and then we'll move on from it. The rest, I'll let him have final say, because we want to talk about UNLV. And Jason is he's about to fall asleep in the backfield here. So we're going to throw him on here in a few minutes. But I'll let Jaylon, you counterpoint me or whatever your thoughts are, and then we'll move on. I promise it's not a quarterback discussion.
So starting out with your first point, I think that is a very that's a very valid perspective, to start Max. And the thing about Max as well is the kid has played with tremendous poise. The elephant is out of the room, right? Max has more upside than Mad Dog, right? And that's what I think that we've seen. And that's what I think the coach has seen. That's why you see, the kid damn near threw the ball 50 times a game. I don't think we've seen that for Mad Dog. Like, everybody knows that he's got more upside, right? Taller. I think his decision-making at times is a little bit better. I think that, there's a lot of things that he does really well. I think also our issues don't stem from the quarterback. I think it's bigger than the quarterback. So I do want to make that note, but I think starting Max and the thing is, with his poise, right, and the way how he's played and the upside that he has, that's even more of the reason why I feel like, you do sort of use him as a last resort, understanding the state that Mad Dog is in. And that's, Mad Dog obviously has worked just as hard as every single player in that organization. He's played a lot of football to be able to get us to the situation, to be able to say that we can play in a championship game. And you're just going to, he's now back healthy or whatever. And who knows if he's not healthy, but you're going to just bench him and play and roll with Max. I just feel personally, I feel like there's a lot more to lose starting with Max than starting with Mad Dog. Yes, it could be a lot better to start Max, and Max could go in and sling it all around and be good. And that's what we want, right? We hope for whoever starts the game to go out there and sling it around and put up points, right? But unfortunately, football does not always go how we expect it to go, and it can turn really quick. And that's why whoever is in, no matter who it is, right, I think you give them a short leash, because we understand, and I think it goes with the flow of the game. The reason why I say a short leash is because whenever the same situation happened in 2019, it was like, we want to make a change at quarterback now in third quarter when we're down 30 to zip. That's too late. It's too late. The game's over by then, right? I say you give whoever understanding that both guys can go, understand that one guy might be a little more banged up than the other. You give them both a chance. Whoever you do start, obviously we know Mad Dog's going to start. You give him, like I said, short leash. If he's not ready to go, or if things are just seeming stagnant, which is a lot of times this year, things with Mad Dog at QB have seemed very stagnant. And the coaches have sat there and sat behind him. At the end of the day, I love every single player, every single staff, everybody that goes through that building. But at the end of the day, I'm a realist. I'm going to keep it how it is. If you don't like that, like, you can close your ears. You don't have to listen. But there was a lot of times and a lot of frustration with Mad Dog's play this year. There was a lot of happy times and good stuff that he did, but he didn't really give you that, oh, yeah, this is our guy, and everybody loves him. There was a lot more hate talk about him than there was happy talk about him, right? And then everybody is seeing Max go in there and sling it, and it's like, wow, it's not super wow, but it's like you haven't seen that the whole season. Right. So I understand your point of view of starting Max. I just personally feel like with starting him, there's a lot more to lose than with starting Mad Dog. I think, and I'm always a devil's advocate. I try to play devil's advocate. Worse and worse comes the worse. Right. Mad Dog could start and he could score touchdown on every single drive and we're all happy. And then everybody's going to be saying, Mad Dog is so good. Yet nobody's even going to remember anything that happened this season. Max could start, and he could play great, but you got to play devil's advocate. And I do respect your opinion, and I do see it. I think it's a great idea. Me being someone who just plays devil's advocate, that is the way how I would do it. Let's see. And then you were talking about we've had a lot more flow with Max. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Watching Max play, you can see, wow, where's this? I mean, you're not really wild, but you're like, okay, that's definitely not something that we've seen throughout the season. We've been sometimes after, like, I feel like when Mad Dog misses throws or throws into double coverage, etc., that's when you start hearing the walls fall down. Everybody's like, oh, this guy sucks. And when Max overthrows his receivers, you don't hear, oh, this guy sucks. You don't hear none of that. You hear, oh man, hey, those guys got to catch it. You out here, they have to catch the ball, or hey, he's young, but he's gonna get that chemistry. Because everybody can see it. It's obvious, right? No knock against Mad Dog. Mad Dog knows how I feel about him. He knows, and I know that I think the world of him, right? It's just, it is what it is, brother. This is what you're putting on film. This is what he's putting on film. I think Max is playing phenomenal. I think he's playing really good. You can definitely tell he's young, but he's playing not looking over his shoulder right now, which I think is making him have the flow that he's playing with. Let's see. When Mad Dog plays, the Broncos run the ball. When Mad Max plays, they throw better. I'm just going to trust the coaches. I like that. I think you have to think also, right? The coaches, and Zach Hill is a big advocate. I know he's not doing any of the play calling up there, but their offense is tailored to the strengths of the quarterback and what they personally feel like the strengths of the quarterback are, which is why you saw Max, whenever he played against San Diego State, run the ball just about every single play. That was probably one of the most frustrating Bronco games I've had to watch in my entire career watching Bronco games. But the coaches didn't know that. They didn't have that trust in him. I think, this is just my opinion, I feel like they didn't have that trust in him. Yeah, it was raining. Yeah, their defense is so good, yada, yada, yada. Granted, other teams have passed the ball on them. I don't care what you say. Like, in football, it was raining for them too. Yes, they were running as well. But you can see over these past few weeks how the coaches have gained that trust in Max, and now they're giving him that trust to be able to throw more. Whereas they sort of they had that with Mad Dog a little bit last year, but you feel like they run more because that's all. They're just keeping training wheels on him. They want him. They give him the best system that works for him, that's overall best for the team. Whereas Max gets the best system that works for him, that's overall better for the team. So the hard part, if you're a coach, is, okay, how do you prepare both of these guys in the event that they both have to play within, a 6-day or so notice, 5-day notice? How do you prepare both of them? How do you prepare our team so we can go be successful? Those guys are millionaires and make a lot of money for a reason, right? To make these tough decisions. So, and then you were talking about the chemistry with Cutforth and how you feel like he should be getting these reps because Mad Dog has already had the reps, right? I agree. I agree with you. I do think that, Max should get a lot of reps, but I think they both should get reps. I think this year is Mad Dog's year. He started off the year as the starter, and he played. I don't think Max played well enough to say, yep, this is our starter now. If he did that maybe earlier in the season, if he's played maybe 6 or 7 games instead of playing just 4 and going 2-2, or if the 4 games that he has played have been just, wow, this is something that we have not seen the whole season, and they won all of those, then I say, you know what, it's time to make the change. It's the same thing. I went 4-0, and it was like everybody was very confused, along with myself, right? Because it was like, wow, we hadn't seen this the whole season, number one. Number two, we were playing dominant Boise State football. Like, why 2-2 for me, and really 2 of those wins are kind of sketchy. That does not tell me that we're playing dominant Boise State football. That does not give me merit, right, to say this guy is our starter right now. Max has years. He's got time left to play at Boise State. He's going to go into this offseason. He's going to get a lot better, right? Playing in these games is going to make him really a lot better. And now we really have a competition. And we should be surprised if we don't see somebody hit the transfer portal. Because there's going to be a competition. They're probably going to bring in a JUCO guy, probably going to bring in a grad transfer, not a grad transfer, somebody from the portal. They're going to bring somebody in. There's going to be a nice little competition. And Max is going to be probably the forerunner of it, But I think that his time is coming with building that chemistry, getting that, aura with the teammates. He's playing right now very raw, but you can tell he's playing confident. The kid is slinging the ball, and he's not afraid to let it go. I trained him when he was back in high school, and you could just see the growth. Obviously, I hope that he has grown, but like this in high school, he was throwing the ball, right? He was throwing it and could be accurate. That kid is slinging the ball now. He is throwing it. And I have to watch on TV, and I'm like, God, dog, man, this. And he plays with confidence. His poise, you gotta love all of that, And that's just something that even makes me more excited about this kid is, he didn't have starter reps all off season and really even talks of competition. It was like Mad Dog's our guy and everybody else is behind. It's the same thing when I was there with Brett Rippin. It was like Brett's our guy and everybody else is behind. There was no competition. Brett is going to be the starter. So that does something to you mentally. Now, this competition's open. Hell yeah. Let's go, right? So those are my follow-ups to your points. I appreciate it. And I hope I didn't bore everybody. I just get excited, man. I get excited about this stuff. I love it, honestly.
I don't think you've bored anybody. I think this is exactly what people tuned in to see, except for UNLV fans who Jason is right here. I'm about to bring him on. Everyone's saying that the collab is fire. It's about to get even more fire because we're adding more heat to that and some Vegas.
Let's go.
Heat. So we're going to add Jason to the stage, Jason Kelly for the Let's Run podcast. We're going to get him set up here, and then we're going to get into the meat of this video. We're 50 minutes in. We haven't even really touched the core. So we're going to spend the last 20 minutes or so of this conversation talking about key players for this matchup from both a Boise State and UNLV perspective, and also keys to the game as well as summarizing with our score predictions. We got a lot to cover. Let's get into it. Jason, I know it's a little bit late. Thank you for joining us, UNLV fans. I hope that you stuck around all the way to the end, or at least maybe Jason will tell you where to fast forward to if you're watching the recording. Jason is finally here to give the UNLV perspective. He does just a little intro. Fantastic podcast, the Let's Run podcast with Jason Kelly. Incredible content, obviously for UNLV fans, but if you're any fan of college football, Mountain West, Pac-12, he does great stuff talking about the Pac-12 conference realignment. He talks about the Mountain West. He talks about college football as a whole. So I encourage everybody to go subscribe to him. He is a great analytical mind and very, very rational and focused on the facts, just like Jaylon here. So thanks so much for coming on, Jason. It's great to have you.
Yeah, man, great to be on here. That was a fun discussion. I was listening. I was flying home trying to get on, and I was glad I got to listen to you guys talk a little bit about Max and Mad Dog. And I would just say, from a UNLV perspective, not to open up the can of worms, but from a UNLV perspective, I've always thought of Spencer Danielson as kind of a system coach. Like, he's not like a great X's and O's guy. He's kind of just a leader. He's kind of a guy that, and the mistake for me was letting Maddox like still have the possibility of coming back at all, because he's clearly not 100% healthy. There's absolutely no way. And even if he is 100% healthy, he isn't well conditioned. Hasn't been playing for a month. And so that was the mistake. It's kind of but I think, for better or for worse, he's kind of loyal to his guys. And I think that makes him a really great coach in a lot of ways, and also makes you susceptible to things in a lot of ways, like having a situation where you've got a guy who's playing well, and now you've got a guy that you do not know how he's going to play. I think that puts you in a little bit more uncertainty, where Max is going out there and winning you games, and right now you do not know how healthy Maddox is, and the minute that you switch a quarterback mid-game, I think you're probably toast. I think the game's probably over at that point. I don't think you're teams that switch quarterbacks mid-games. Let's go through the records of those, including a couple of Boise State teams under Andy Avalos. Doesn't work out super well. So you're laying your bed in the Maddox Madsen world, and Maddox has dominated UNLV. So from a UNLV fan, I don't know what I'm supposed to say negative. But he's done really all of his best games of his career basically have come against UNLV. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. It's a gamble. Danielson's a good guy, nice guy. Excited for this game. Should be a fun matchup.
Well, that's a good segment to our key players of the game here, because Maddox Madsen, like you said, has been dominant in these games. He has not just thrown great, but he's actually run really well. We'll see how much of an impact that is with him coming back from a running injury. But he has played really, really well. So that's another chip for Maddox Madsen potentially being the main reason starting him, because he knows how to beat UNLV. So let's talk about some of those other key players, or we can talk about Maddox Madsen if that's a key player for you, Jaylon. But we'll talk about those key players for Boise State and also for UNLV here. I'll just open up with a few of mine, and then I'll let Jaylon throw out his guys, and then we'll talk about the UNLV from Jason. UNLV fans, you've waited long enough. We'll talk about some UNLV stuff finally here. But for Boise State, my three, just to kind of hit it off real fast here, is Dylan Riley is my number one guy. I think that regardless of who's at quarterback, having him in the backfield is going to make your offense explosive. He has had incredible games this season, and his most incredible was against UNLV. Maybe he feels a little bit of that 200-yard type magic on the blue. He became the 18th Boise State running back to eclipse 1,000 yards this season. Incredible story, of obviously off the field as well. But to be able to do this coming from a guy that was fourth string on the depth chart, talk about Jalen's ascendance to start at one point. But Dylan Riley was fourth string on the depth chart at one point in the season and ended up being the lead rusher with 1,000+ yards. Incredible story. And I think he has a big matchup. And then another guy that I'm going to throw out that's been part of that running back room is Malik Sherrod. Not for necessarily the reasons you'd think, but I think that he has been a huge factor the last couple of games because they finally figured out how to use him effectively. Early on in the season, they tried to make him that kind of every down guy, giving him the ball, on key third downs type situations. He's not a power back. He's not like Sarah Gaines, but he is a running back who is very explosive. In some ways, he reminds me, and I'm not saying all the way, but in some ways, he reminds me of elements of McNichols. All right, having that ability to be a receiver and a running back, use him in the right way. He's so fast. He's small, but he's really fast. You give him an open lane, scheme him into an open position, and he's going to explode down the field. He's had the 2 huge running touchdowns the last couple of games, and then last week he had some really nice catches as well. And I think he's a key piece in this matchup, finding ways to scheme him. I think they finally found out how to use him effectively. It's too bad it rated to the end of the season, but they finally found out how to use him effectively. I think he'll be a big factor. And then finally for me, before Jaylon, I'll let you hit off with your guys you think going to be a big impact in this, is Sherrod Smith. Obviously, you got to have your leaders. Jeremiah Irby, you're going to obviously Benefield. Those guys are going to dominate in the secondary for you. But obviously, McCoy being out for the rest of the season, that was a point where I went, my goodness, the season just got a lot worse because I don't know how we replace him. And it's not that you replace him. He was an incredible corner. But one of those guys, and they've been kind of doing a rotation between him and Feeney, but one of those guys who has stepped up so big is listed as a sophomore by ESPN. I think he might be a redshirt freshman. Either way, one of those guys who has stepped up so big this season. The last game, he had 7 tackles, including one of the biggest hits that I have seen for a Boise State defender since maybe Jail Skinner was here. He had a huge hit, and it wasn't just that. He also had lockdown coverage pretty much anytime they threw the ball his way, and they targeted him as the new guy. He locked it down. Obviously, it's one game to kind of scheme around and see what his potential is, but I think that's a guy that I think will explode coming through into this game and be a big contributor for next year as well. Jaylon, who are your top guys, top contributors for Boise State in this matchup?
Yes, sir. Well, you hit it right on the head. Riley, I think we've got to get him going early. He's been phenomenal for us. He's had his best game, like you said, against UNLV. Sherrod as well, like how we've been using him with his sort of. I like that comparison with Nichols. I think he's like a sort of a speed guy that you don't want to use him every down, but like I like the speed that he has. I like the tenacity that he plays with on defense. Being a field, he's got to have a big night. Got to be able to stop their pass game, stop the quarterback from passing all over the place. I think our D line as well has got to show up. Our D line is going to be D-line and linebackers are going to be very, very important in stopping the explosive offense of UNLV. Their quarterback, his name, Jaden Thomas, I believe, or no, Anthony Calandri. Anthony, he's been slinging it, right? We have got to contain him. I think you were asking for keys to the game. I think we need to not let him get hot. I think our linebackers, like I said, we need to wrap up, right? We have to wrap up and make tackles and stay away from the penalties, stay out of penalty trouble. But most importantly, offense, we've got to catch the ball when the ball is thrown to us. I think our run game is going to be a good balance. That's going to open up the pass game. We're going to have to establish the run early. So using Riley, using Sherrod, Riley to run the ball, we've got to do well in that aspect as well. So
can't forget Sire Gaines. He's itching to come back and have a big he's itching to have a big one, and I think he will as well. All right, the man that everyone has been asking for. Those are great thoughts there. Jaylon. I definitely agree with those keys, which we'll get to a little bit more here in a moment. But let's get the man that everyone's been asking for, the man, the myth, the legend, Jason Kelly. Who's your key players for UNLV in this matchup?
All right, so I was thinking about this a lot because this is yours and I, Mr. Bronco Believer. I like the rebrand, by the way. I think it's great. I was thinking about, okay, I've said Calandria before, I've said Jet Thomas before, because obviously we've got a great quarterback, offensive player of the year. That was absolutely deserved, by the way. I know that there was a PR push for Bryson Barnes, but Anthony Calandria was just clearly the best quarterback in the Mountain West this season, and it really wasn't that close, to be honest. Doesn't mean we have the best team. Obviously we don't, but I think he was clearly the best quarterback. So I thought about the obvious players, and I thought I'm going to pick 2 defensive players and 1 offensive player. So the UNLV defense is kind of the story of this game. Will UNLV have one of the 150 best defenses in the country like we failed to do last time we played Boise State? UNLV, there were 15 FCS defenses playing better than UNLV's defense the last time we played in Boise, Idaho. I said if we had Tarleton State, we might be 11. If we had Tarleton State's defense, we might be 11-1 in a college football playoff contender, because that's how bad our defense is playing. It was horrific. The defense is playing better. They are. They're doing better. I mean, I don't want to act like they've become the Chicago Bears, but they're playing better than they used to. And obviously, some of that is the competition that they've gone up against. They've gone, Hawaii, not in Hawaii. They've gone up against obviously Colorado State, who is putrid and disgusting in terms of how they play the game of football right now. And then obviously they've gone up against Elko School of Mines, as we like to call them, the College of Reno. And so my players are Marcel McDuffie. So I brought him up before in the past, but he's our version of Jackson Woodard this year. He didn't do great the first 6 or 7 games of the season. Turned it on lately. He's been playing a lot better. He's been having a better command of the defense than he used to. The player number 2 for me would be Jake Pope. Jake Pope's obviously our guy that was recruited by Nick Saban out of high school. Then he ends up playing for Kirby Smart in Georgia after transferring there. And now he's at UNLV, and you're wondering, man, I mean, what happened to you? And I actually met his parents. His parents were up there in Boise. I'm not going to be able to be at Boise this week, man. I'm so bummed about it. It's just the flights. I can't miss work. But Jake Pope, our safety, he's kind of a leader on the defense, and he's a guy that had a lot of potential coming into the season. And really only the last 3 games have we seen him kind of step into that playmaker role, because he was a 5-star safety out of high school, playing for Alabama and Georgia. And so those are my kind of 2 defensive guys. And then, I didn't want to do just like a straight running back. And so I thought Jaden Bradley was the guy that I like to highlight. And really kind of the receiver core in general. UNLV spreads the ball out a lot. That's something you can say about our roster. We tend to throw to 7 or 8 receivers per game, which is pretty remarkable. Jet Thomas, who is a 1,000-yard season, a bunch of touchdowns. He only gets like 10 carries a game, which, pulling my hair out on the sideline. watching us play. But Jaden Bradley's the receiver that I'm going to kind of single out, although there are other guys I could bring up. Trey O'Meara, Dejon Reynolds, JoJo Earl have all had decent seasons. JoJo Earl, not as much. But Jaden Bradley's been wide receiver 1 for us. And I just think the passing game in general, Jaden is pretty big. He's a good target. He's got good downfield speed. He's very good on the sideline. And so those would kind of be my 3 players. I think if those 3 guys, I really wanted to focus on the defense because I feel like the Rebels are either going to be, or if Anthony Calandria throws picks, we're going to lose. That's just how it's going to go. And if the Rebels can be not one of the worst defenses in college football, they'll have a puncher's chance in this one. A better chance, probably, definitely, than they had when we played in October.
Yeah, I think that just like you and Jaylon were saying, Calandra is going to be a huge factor in this matchup, being able to stop him. The number 1 passing quarterback in the Mountain West, the 20th passing quarterback overall. Now, he didn't have his best game versus Boise State. It's actually his lowest passing yards in the last 6 matchups with 215 yards passing. But he did have his best running game versus Boise State of 87 rushing yards, which I think leads perfectly into the keys to the game here for me. So we're going to get right into the keys of the game for Boise State versus UNLV. I'll give my keys to the game. Jaylon and I will talk about them. And then Jason, you'll present the UNLV keys, and we'll just do one at a time like that, back and forth. But just talking about that running game, my number 1 key, you talk about stopping Calandria's arm. I agree. That's got to be a factor for Boise State. But my biggest fear when it comes to UNLV, and I think the reason that they've shown improvement overall. I mean, yeah, they played about the same level teams they did the first half of the season, but I've been more impressed with this UNLV offense on this back half of the season than I was in the first half of the season, where I think that they were explosive and really good, but they just struggled to be consistent. The thing that's made them better the last few games is that I think they've learned how to use their running game more effectively. And specifically, I think they've learned how to use Jet Thomas. I remember watching your very first review of the very first game of the season versus Idaho State, where you're just basically saying, like, they don't know how to use Jet Thomas, to paraphrase you. That was one of your biggest complaints, is like he's so explosive, he's so good, he did something great every time he touched the ball. Why are they not giving him the ball? Well, they've been giving him that ball. UNLV right now, passing wise, they're okay. I mean, obviously they have a great passing quarterback right now. They're 258.6 yards passing per game, but rushing for UNLV, they're averaging 204.7 yards rushing per game. So their passing game gets a lot of highlights and focus, but their running game is also really strong, and they're actually 17th in the country in rushing. On Boise State's side of things, defensively, we are really good at stopping the passing game, which is why I'm not as concerned about the passing game for UNLV here. We're really good. We're 11th in the country. We're 167.3 yards passing per game. We're 11th in the country overall. Rushing, though, rushing defense, we are 87th in the country, 163.3 yards allowed rushing per game. Here's a crazy stat for you, UNLV-wise, when you're talking about the keenness of the running game. Every single game that Jet Thomas averages 4 yards per carry, obviously he missed one game with Utah State, but every game he has played that he has averaged 4 yards or more per carry, UNLV has won. The 2 games that they lost, Boise State and New Mexico, he averaged less than 4 yards per carry. He had 3.5 yards versus Boise State, and he had 2.6 yards versus New Mexico. So for me, my biggest key is the biggest weakness that I think we've had overall. I think our defense has been great. I think Chenander's done an incredible job stepping up this year and melding a defense that lost some key guys, especially a secondary that's much maligned. He's done an incredible job of making this defense great. But one of the things that we've just struggled with, and it makes sense after you lose a key guy like Simpson and have to replace with some guys who aren't as experienced, is our linebacker and center of our D-line. I mean, those areas have struggled for Boise State, and that is where we've had our weakest points, is in stopping that run game. So if we can stop both the quarterback and the running back run game, we've struggled against running quarterbacks. If we can stop both of those, force UNLV into the air, which is going to put them into our strength, put them into the teeth of our defense in the secondary, I think that is the biggest key for us to winning this matchup. That's key number 1, stop the run. Jaylon, what are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I could not agree more with you. I think that analysis was great. I think that that's what I had as my number 1 key is, we have to stop their run game first, right? We cannot allow them to get in a groove, and everybody's offense, it starts with the run. Their plan obviously is probably wanting to start with the run, which is going to then do what? Open up the pass game, right? So I think that we have to stop the run. Our D-line has to show up. Our linebackers, which is something I keep on repeating, they have to show up and not let them get into a rhythm, right? We can't let them start getting into a rhythm and start feeling hot. We got to keep everything in front of us. So I am right there with you as that being a main key to the game, is being able to stop the run early, right? So yeah, how about you, Jason? Or
Sure, man. I'll my key number one is don't let your run get stopped. Kind of like literally, I'm sitting here. I'm kind of just gonna say that here's how I'll frame it to try and make it not uninteresting. Um, don't hold anything back. Like, I feel like this Rebel team has been holding things back, specifically Jet Thomas, specifically the types of running plays that they call. I feel like it's been vanilla. And listen, man, like, you're not going to go up there and blow out Boise State. It's not going to happen. You're not going to play a control game where you win 35-18. It's just not going to happen. The crowd's not going to let it happen. The pride of the program is not going to let it happen. If you're going to win, it's going to be a close game. It's going to be tight late. Don't hold it back. Don't hold Jet back. 11 carries is Bush League, Corey Dennis, our offensive coordinator. It's so stupid, man. Jet Thomas could have 1,500 yards this season, and I get it, man. We want to spread around the ball. We've got many running backs, Kevon Lee, Jaylen Glover, who are talented guys, but to hell with them. I don't want to watch them touch the ball. I want to watch Jet Thomas touch the ball. I want to see cool plays. We were doing some cool stuff out of the Wildcat against Reno last week that was remarkably fun to watch. And so don't hold back on the running game. If you're going to go for it, go for it. I think of so many games. I was there in Boise, man, and I have watched this UNLV team lose to this Boise State team 4 times in like 20 months. I am tired of it. And listen, if we're going to lose, go out swinging. Don't hold back. You have an awesome running back who's probably not going to be here next year. He's probably going to get poached by a bigger program, go make $800,000 or $1 million or whatever. I don't know. So go for it. Use him. You're never going to use him again. This is like having a pizza that's about to expire. That's like the best pizza you've ever had in your life. Eat the dang pizza, man. Use it. Run the football. Use your assets. Use your best players. Don't hold it back. And that's my key number one is like Jet Thomas is averaging like 7 yards a carry. Let him control the game. Let him control the game and then let Calandria follow in the passing game. Because Jet Thomas is that kind of player. He's that good. And he's the healthiest he's been. I mean, you want to know why we struggled so much to score against Utah State? A lot of it was because Jet was out, and we didn't have those explosive carries from him. So that's my key number one. Excuse my ranting. I think it's more interesting when I get a little excited, though. And I am excited.
This is like Max coming off the bench. We've kept Jason on the background this whole time. He's got all his energy. He's ready. He's firing off. I love it. Let's go. Key number 2. All right, key number 2, Boise State versus UNLV. Adaptability over comfortability. And kind of what I'm meaning by that is that this is a team you're playing twice, okay? This is a team that you're playing twice this season. Jaylon, you've done this, obviously, with Hawaii. I'll ask you about that here in a moment. But this is a team that you're playing twice. You are very familiar with each other. And more than that, it's not just a team you've played twice in 1 year, but like you were saying, Jason, this is the 3rd time that we've met in the Mountain West Championship game. It's the 2nd year in a row that we've played this team twice in the same season, and we will have played 5 times in the last 2.5 years, which is just absolutely wild. You know each other. And so the key to winning this game, and I think, it's kind of obvious for any football game you play, but it's adaptability, being able to adapt better and faster than the coach that you're lining up across from you. Now, defensive side, I'm not too worried about that. Boise State's defense has been elite at adapting. Chinander has done an incredible job in the second half of adapting defenses. I think that obviously Dan Mullen's complaining about coming with a heavier blitz package last time. I could totally see Chinander messing with him and going more coverage in the first half and then bringing that blitz again in the second half. But regardless, we're going to see great adaptation for Boise State defense. My biggest concern, and it kind of goes back again to the quarterback conversation we're having at the beginning, is can this Boise State offense adapt? I think that's been something that we've struggled to see all year is, okay, it's not working in the first half. You didn't do anything in the first half versus UNR. Let's see something different in the second half. It's the same thing. Same thing, San Diego State, right? Last couple of weeks, it's been a little bit different. We've shown that ability to adapt. My biggest surprise coming out of Colorado State and Utah State is how well Boise State's offensive coordinators have been able, or coordinator and Potter, have been able to adapt offensively to both the strength of their quarterback and to what the other team is doing against them defensively. And so that is going to be my biggest key in here. I think there could be a tendency. We've seen, like we talked about, a different, explosive, more exciting level offense coming into this game where everything is on the line and the stress and the level of play is so big. Potentially we could see Potter going back to some more of those older, more comfortable habits of let's just try and run that ball down them and see what happens. I don't think that's going to work this game. UNLV's defense has gotten much better the last few weeks. This is a different level UNLV team. I think you're going to need to continue to show that explosive and adaptability, that mix passing and offense that we've seen the last few games. You cannot revert to what worked early in the year, because this is a different UNLV team, and it's a different Boise State team as well. You have different players that have melded into different roles and different levels of health for those key players as well. So for me, for my key number 2 is you have to be able to adapt, most keyly offensively. If the plan isn't working, if the quarterback you went with isn't working, if the offensive game plan you went with isn't working, you have to be ready to roll the dice and go with the different game plan or the different quarterback, however that works out. Like you're talking about, Jaylon, with your thought process on this starting quarterback position, you have to be ready to adapt. That's key number 2 for me.
I think that's great. Mine is sort of similar to that. My key number 2 is keep the main thing, right? We've never lost to UNLV, and since we played them since 2015, we've won every single year.
You've won every time since 1976, my man.
Yeah,
Since
exactly.
you remember the great 1976 UNLV football team. I think George Washington was on that team. Anyway, that's how long it's been, man.
Right.
It's been since the bicentennial of America that UNLV has beaten this Boise State team.
We've never lost. We need to keep the main thing. Yes, it's the championship game, but we shouldn't make it bigger than what it is, right? It's a big game for us, but we've been here before, and we've been able to compete and play Bronco football. And so our main key number 2 is keep the main thing no matter what it is. Every single year, we've always had to deal with some type of adversity, right? We've dealt with injuries, whether it's injuries or, the COVID coming around, whatever it is, we've always had to deal with adversity, and we've always been able to just keep the main thing at the end of the day. They're coming to our house on the blue. It's going to be great atmosphere. They're not used to this super cold weather that they're going to have to come and play in. They probably have nice, turf, good facilities that they're playing and practicing in the warmth and sunshine every day. They don't have to look up and see gray clouds and fog, right, when they wake up in the morning, or see snow, whatever it is, right? Let's keep the main thing. Let's go out there. Let's play Bronco football, and that is my take number 2. It's just, we've never lost this game, right? Now, I will say something. It is very difficult to beat a team multiple times in a season. But again, we have done that before. 2019, right? We've done that 2020, the COVID year, San Diego State, right? We've done that before. This isn't our first rodeo. We've been here, right? We need to keep the main thing and play Bronco football.
Jason, but just before you give your thoughts, I want to go to something Jaylon just said I meant to ask him about. Playing a team twice. You've done that. You did that with Hawaii, and then you went and played them, and the second one was an even bigger win, obviously, than the first time. Just very briefly, what's the biggest factor when you play a team that you've already played in the season already?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a lot tougher because when you're playing them the first time, you see them on film and you have a pretty good idea. But when you play them that second time, you're like, oh, I remember how this guy moves. I remember how so you can prepare a little bit better. It's a lot harder to beat a team twice throughout the season. So, in Europe, we sometimes play teams 3 times within the season. If you make the championship, you play your team in your conference twice, right? And then potentially in playoffs, right? It's very difficult to beat teams multiple times. So, but at the same time, the Broncos have been able to always come through and do it most of the time, right? So that's why I say, keep the main thing. Don't make it bigger than what it has to be for us. We've been here before. UNLV has been here before, but not as many times as us, right? So that's how I feel.
That's great thoughts. Jason, go ahead. Sorry to delay you.
No, it's okay. It's fine. It gives me more time to stew over here in my anxiety about this game. I'm anxious about it. It's honestly, I was sitting there and I was like, man, do we really have to go to Boise again? Goodness. I lived in Jaylon, I lived in Boise for a year. The 2023 season, I had season tickets, and I actually grew up a Boise State fan. Obviously because UNLV was not relevant, until we built until we got a Legion, until we got our new practice facility, until we started investing in football a few years ago. And so, there's kind of like oh my goodness, man, this is like you're staring down your boogeyman is basically what it is. It's like a Mike Myers coming in, Jason Voorhees, and so I guess like my key number 2 would be don't panic. I swear you can see brown stains on this secondary's pants when you're watching them try and talk to each other before a play about who's supposed to be covering who. You can see these guys actively crapping their pants oftentimes, many times throughout this season, where I mean, because I sit about 5 rows up in Allegiant Stadium. I've got very good seats. We had seats at Sam Boyd Stadium, and so they transferred our awesome seats at that miserable piece of crap stadium to Allegiant Stadium. And I shouldn't speak too harshly about the Silver Bowl. I have great memories there growing up, watching my team get beat down all the time. But I sit very close to the team is the point I'm trying to make here. And before the game, before so many plays each game, I'm watching these guys in the secondary, the linebackers, the corners, the DBs talking to each other, and they look like one of them has like a hot potato, and they're throwing it to each other, and each of them are just scared about who's supposed to be doing what. And it's been happening less frequently. At Boise State, man, again, I was like 4 rows up in Boise State. I bought a very good seat. I was sitting, very nice 50-yard line, about 3 rows up there at the blue. And I'm watching our guys. And I'm just like, guys, are you talking to each other throughout the course of the week? Like, is this the first time you guys have ever been on the field together? Like, what happened to fall camp? Why aren't you guys talking about this more? And as the season has gone on, and specifically that New Mexico game where we gave up like 15 explosive plays of 120 yards or more, I think that they've gotten better since then. Now there's still some work to go. There's still room to grow in that sense. And obviously this is kind of the last game of the season besides the bowl game. But I would just say, like, be confident. If Boise State's going to beat you with great individual plays, fair enough. That's going to happen. You've got some good players on that Boise State team. But even if you have no idea where you're supposed to stand, stop barking at each other before the play, because it's very clear you guys are about to give up an 80-yard Dylan Riley touchdown run. Like, it's very obvious that that's what's about to happen. And so the communication of the defense, we've seen that improve week by week. I think that game against Reno, if they couldn't stop jumping off sides, I think it would have been a decent defensive performance outside of that garbage time touchdown late in the game. But communication. We're going to give up 2 or 3. Hopefully that's how many it is. Explosive plays in this game where, you're going to see Maddox run for 50 yards. You're going to see somebody break through. It's going to happen. It can't happen 9 times. It can happen 2 or 3 times. It cannot happen 9 times, because that's where the games we've lost this season. And we've won a couple of games actually where it's happened too. The Air Force game kind of comes to mind, that 51-48 barn burner against the Falcons at Allegiant Stadium. So that's my key number 2. It's just communicate well, make them beat you. They have good enough players to beat you, but don't be panicked before the play and try and prevent those big plays, 2 or 3 at most. That's the only way you can win this game. Probably 2. If Boise State gets 2 long touchdowns, you can probably score 35 points. Hopefully, I think UNLV's offense is capable of that. So, you're probably going to be able to keep them under 35 points if you only give up 2 explosive plays.
Man, this is why we have Jason on. This is the kind
of
stuff
I'm fired up, man.
This is great. This is great content. All right, final key for Boise State. I've been having to hold this one in because actually, Jaylon, it's pretty much exactly the same thing you were saying. I'm going to phrase it a little bit differently, but do the little things right. The stage cannot be so big that you forget about the small successes. It goes back to what you were talking about at the very beginning of this video, right? The biggest issue with Boise State hasn't been the quarterback play. It's been everything else. Now, the quarterback play has been an element, but it's been everything else. It's been the numerous penalties. Boise State right now is 111th in the country in penalties. And that's not like that's the good number. That means that they are 111th worse in their number of penalties per game. They have 88 penalties per game right now this season. And it hasn't really gotten better. There's been times where maybe they have a game that's good, but then the very next game, they'll have a ton. Now, obviously, last week, it's kind of skewed because of how the referees were calling that game, but that's not like that was the case the entire year. That's not why Boise State is like this, the undisciplined level of play. And so for Boise State, the stage cannot overshadow the small successes. It's the small successes that win you these games. It's the small success in offense where you get your block and it allows a 3 or 4 yard run that then the next time becomes an explosive 80-yard. It's the small successes that build the momentum, and it's the little mistakes that unravel the team. Yeah, the big, huge kicker misses a field goal, quarterback throws an interception. Those are going to be the things that get focused on as, I can't believe that lost us the game. But it was all of the little mistakes before that. The quarterback throwing into coverage one one too many times that set the DBs up, staring down a wide receiver. The wide receiver who looked downfield a little bit before the catch, made that catch, but the next time he's going to drop it on a key play. It's the little mistakes that unravel the team as a whole. So don't let the moment overshadow the focus on the fundamentals. The wide receivers have to secure the catches. The defense has to avoid the silly penalties, the unsportsmanlikes, etc. The special teams need to secure the return. That was a big issue. I think last time we played UNLV, or the fumbled, the constant. And then make kicks and don't get false starts, etc. Focus on the little things to win the bigger game. So my 3 keys, just to sum up: Boise State, stop the run. Key number 2, adaptability over comfortability. And key number 3, do the little things right. Play your game. Don't let the moment overshadow. Jaylon.
Yes, sir. So that was great. Mine is sort of similar in that realm of my 3rd key point. My 3rd key point is we've got to limit our mistakes, right? We cannot let penalties back us up, and we cannot let penalties put UNLV in an advantage situation, right? We've got to play sound football, and we've got to be disciplined, right? That's something that we've been lacking a lot. It's shown up a lot more this year than it has in previous seasons. We have to play disciplined Boise State football. I think that's what's going to be able to push us ultimately over the top, okay, into winning this game. We also have to sustain drives within that, right? And then the last little point that is on there as well, we have to be better in the red zone on defense. We've got to stop their offense from scoring in the red zone if they make it that far to the red zone. I think our red zone defense has been a little iffy. And I think that that'll be something that's important, right? Limiting those penalties, not allowing them to, get those free access yards. And then whenever they get down to the red zone, the defense has got to step up and make a play, right? So just to summarize my key points, okay, number 1, it was get our guys going early, right? Get them going, get the ball in the hands, get our run game established, try to get UNLV into an 8-man box so that we can start getting a lot more one high zone and take advantage of those matchups, okay? But that all starts with getting the run game going early. Number 2, like I said, keeping the main thing, playing Boise State football, understanding that, we've been here before. We've beaten this team. We've never lost to this team. And by the way, I just want to put a little side note. There was not a single second during that Utah State game that I thought that we were going to lose, given we have not lost to we're not going to lose to those guys. I just felt it in my heart, right? That's how we've got to feel about this game. We have never lost. We shouldn't feel like there's even a possibility there. Keep the main thing. And then the last one, right? We've got to limit our mistakes, okay? We cannot hurt ourselves. And we've got to be strong defensively in the red zone. We've got to stop them in the red zone.
That's a great point about the red zone. Looked up the stat real quick while you were talking about it, because I was like, Boise State's pretty low in the country. I didn't realize they were this low in the country. And this is for NCAA.com. They are 121st in the country in red zone defense. 121st overall in red zone defense. So great final point on that. Jason, what are your thoughts for UNLV? Sorry, Jaylon, if you got more thoughts, go ahead.
Oh, no, Jason, that's on you.
All right. So I just feel like there's so many things to say, but also this is the 5th time we've had this show, or 4th time that I've been on Bronco Believers channel here. So I feel like I've said all of this before. It's like, I could say keep them under 200 yards rushing, where the Rebels have won the games where they've kept teams under 200. I'm not asking for a ton here. 200 yards rushing for Boise State. Can the Rebels keep them under that? I'm not asking for deliverance here. I thought about have Jet have a certain number of carries. I thought about all these things, and ultimately I just decided to kind of do a bigger picture thing here and just say that, don't be stupid. The Rebels, when I was up there watching them play in Boise, made a lot of dumb mistakes, and not just the players, but the coaches. Paul Gunther, the guy our defensive coordinator, who looks like Papa John. You can see him sweating the pizza grease on the sideline. He has made some of the dumbest calls and some of the dumbest coverages that I've ever seen this season. Just not being aggressive on the offensive side of the football. If it's 3rd and 1, I just feel like the play calling has to be sharp. I swear, if I have to see another team, this isn't just UNLV. I think Boise State's done this. I saw Utah State do it. If you run a quarterback draw on 4th and 1, if if you empty out the backfield and have your quarterback start 5 lines behind the line of scrimmage, I am going to have an aneurysm. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to I don't know that I will physically be able to take that. And I am seeing this team, this Rebel team, make those dumb mistakes despite having so much talent, despite being, I mean, like this Dan Mullen has a good squad, man. I mean, defensively, obviously they're missing some talent, but just avoid the stupidity, man. Like, go out there and perform. And I could put that in 20 different keys, under 200 yards rushing, 3 keys of the game where you don't give them more than three explosive, where you don't give up more than 3 explosive plays. Don't run a quarterback draw on a 4th and 1. Just don't be stupid. Like if Boise State's going to beat you 42-38, you played a great game. If they're going to beat you, so be it. But don't go out there and beat yourselves because, it's kind of like what you guys said. Your mistakes are going to kill you. And the Rebels' mistakes, despite being 10-2, I mean, we were legitimately the most fraudulent 6-0 team in the history of college football. We are not the most fraudulent 10-2 team in the history of football. We have gotten better. These last 4 games have shown something, improvements and better discipline. And if I see them revert back to that team that I watched play in Boise, I might just lose it.
Well, it has been awesome getting to have you on one more time. Everybody getting to see what you bring to the table. Again, please make sure you go over and follow Jason's channel. Fantastic stuff. The Let's Run podcast with Jason Kelly. Fantastic content. This is the last time that we guaranteed get to preview a Boise State versus UNLV game. There may be some non-conference type things that happen. Nothing on the schedule yet, or maybe we'll meet in a bowl. I don't know. But for now, this is the last guaranteed time. Jason will be back on the channel, though, in the future for sure. This is a partnership that's not going away. But this is a great discussion. We are now at the end. It's an hour and a half in. I've had a blast. I have strains on the side of my face from how much I've laughed and smiled throughout this entire video. So we're going to get to the end here, summarizing thoughts for Boise State versus UNLV, and then our score predictions. Please make sure that you are putting your score predictions in. Now, I'll throw them at the end of the video, but also at the end, make sure you go in on the recording, put the score predictions in for the score prediction challenge, because all these comments will disappear as soon as I end the recording here. So, final thoughts, and we've kind of gone reverse order here this whole time. We're going to let UNLV, Jason's got the momentum, he's got the fire and the passion right now. We're going to let Jason give his final summary thoughts and score prediction, and then we'll go Jaylon, and then I will wrap us up, and we'll be done. All right, Jason, final thoughts, score prediction, UNLV versus Boise State.
Yeah, I'll end this out. I'll try and be succinct here, but I would just say that, like, losing to Boise State has hurt me, I think, about as much as it can hurt me. Seeing the Rebels, fall in this matchup time and time again. And so I do feel like this is kind of a no, like, you have nothing to lose here. Like, you've already lost. I mean, there's, when you've lost 4 times in a row, how much, it's like, what's the 5th loss really going to do for you? It's just going to be a continuation of what's already happened. And so I really do feel like this is the Rebels. This is a really good chance at this game. I would say this is the best chance of the games that they've played. This is probably the best chance because you might have one-leg Madsen running around out there. You might have, Potter. Talk about brown pants. I've seen some down in San Diego. I saw some brown pants from Nate Potter and that offensive staff. Like, I think this Boise State team has some vulnerabilities. I think obviously their record would show that. Obviously, we do too. But this is a good chance to go out and win this game. The Rebels are playing better. When are you going to play again? And I hope Jeremiah Dickey and Eric Harper, our athletic directors, can figure out a way to keep this going in the non-conference, because I think it's just too good of a game not to have around. And it would be good for both conferences to have a head-to-head over each other too. I mean, I think it would help I think you should have a game versus an American team if you can, or a Mountain West team, just to say like, oh, well, that's another G5 conference and we have a head-to-head win over them, just to give yourself some extra like padding if you're trying to get into the college football playoff. So in terms of my prediction for this game, like, it would have to be the apocalypse going on for me to predict UNLV to beat Boise State. I'm not going to do that. I've never done that. I won't do it until I see it. And so I'm not going to do it this time. And I have very reliably picked against the Rebels, I think 7 out of their 12 games this season. And I think they won. I think I was wrong only once when they lost to New Mexico, but I picked them to beat New Mexico in terms of that kind of result. So I'm going to say Boise State pulls this out. I'm going to say it's a little bit lower scoring than perhaps the over. I think the over is like 56. I know it would be over. I'm going to say Boise State 31, UNLV 28. I think this is a close game. I think the teams are vulnerable. I think that kind of the Boise crowd and program just kind of pushes them over the top. and just kind of the program momentum, I guess you could call it, pushes Boise over the top in what will be a very close game.
All right. So final game, a close one, a walk-off field goal win for Boomer to make up for the miss last week. Yeah, Boise State wins it. I like that prediction either way. Jaylon, what are your thoughts? Final summary and score prediction for Boise State.
Yes, sir. First off, I appreciate you guys bringing me on the show. I had a blast, and it's always nice to talk any Bronco football, but we have a guest from the other team, and that's awesome as well. Jason, appreciate everything with you as well. I think we, at the end of the day, Boise State is going to pretty much manage the game. They're going to limit the possessions that UNLV is going to be able to get. I could see it sort of turning into a shootout-esque vibes with, just like Jason was saying, if it was going to be any year that UNLV was going to beat Boise State, I think right now we're almost like, I'm not going to say we're having a wounded animal-esque season, but I mean, to make it to the championship game and you're 8-4, right? We're not having a typical Boise State season, I would say. So if there was any year to do it, and then this is the year as well, I think, UNLV, they've got everything together. They've got their staff in order. They've got their facilities together. They have their talent and their recruits together. If this was a year to beat the Broncos, this is their shot to do it. With that being said, I see it turning into sort of a shootout. I got Boise State winning, obviously 38-27. And yeah, I'm excited for the game, excited to watch it. And yeah, go Broncos, baby.
Well, Boise State versus UNLV, the final game, the last time for sure that these two teams will play at the end of a season that has been miraculous for UNLV. They replace a head coach and people are expecting a down year. Dan Mullins doesn't allow a down year and he comes back firing. For Boise State, a year that didn't start off the way that they wanted to, and even in the middle wasn't where they wanted it to, but they find themselves, despite all of that, in the Mountain West Championship game with a chance to end their time in the Mountain West the right way. They opened up their time in the Mountain West in 2011, tying for second in the Mountain West Championship. TCU won that just by overall record, but Boise State tied for second. They don't want to end tied for second. They're here, then they're here to win it for Boise State. Now on the other side for UNLV, obviously we've talked about their motivation and what they have coming into this game. They're also a better team. We talked about really statistically, but defense overall on the season, they're giving up 28.1 points per game. But the last 4 games, they've only given up 15.8 points per game. Defensively, yardage-wise overall, UNLV's given up over 400 yards per game this season, but the last 4 games, they've only given up 324.5 yards per game. So the defense for UNLV has started to figure itself out, and on top of that, we talked about them being able to use Jaden better. But for Boise State on their side, they have the fire right now. That kind of died a little bit, it felt like, at times this season. When I went to the game and I watched at Fresno State, on the sideline, there was just no energy, no passion. Obviously, it was a down kind of game for them, but it looked like the fire was out. Well, that has been ignited. Whether it was the criticism potentially of the coaching staff, whether it was knowing where this season was going and wanting to end the right way, whatever it was, these players have found that passion, that fire again. The hits that we saw last week versus Utah State, despite all of that adversity, the hits we saw last week from Smith, from Steege, incredible. Shows that this team is giving everything. They're leaving everything on the field and nothing for doubt. Leave no doubt, right, for Boise State. They are ready to play in this game. The passion is back. It's a game that they're not taking for granted. This was not a game that statistically, computer-wise ways, they weren't really supposed to be here, and then they're here regardless. They are ready to have that one last opportunity, the golden moment, that opportunity to shine that they thought they weren't going to get. They are playing grateful, and they're going to be playing fired and passion in this matchup. Now, there's questions, of course, about this Boise State team. How is the offense going to look? How healthy is Maddox Madsen? Will the coordinator, Mike Potter, make the adjustments that need to be made if they need to be made? But at the end of the day, I think it was said earlier for Boise State, they are on the blue. If this game was in Vegas, maybe I think I'd predict something else, but this game is on the blue. And yes, Jaylon, they may be a wounded animal right now, but a wounded animal is the most dangerous right at the end when it thinks it might be cornered. And this Boise State team is ready to bring everything that they have and give one more shot in the mouth at UNLV on their way out the door. So I am predicting for Boise State in this game that they are going to win this matchup. That may be a little bit, the weather is going to be a little bit of a factor. It may take them a while to get their feet under them, but Boise State will win this game 34 to UNLV's 21. I believe in a Boise State win.
All right.
That's great stuff, man. Yeah, sad that we have to end it out. I wish we were still in the same conference, but
Yeah.
there are powers that be that I can't control, and I think that's I appreciate you guys having me on. It was nice talking to you, Jaylon. You're a good dude. It's fun.
Yeah, same
fun
to
to
you,
listen to
Jason.
a player, man.
All right,
Yeah,
I'll throw out a
same to you.
couple of score predictions here from the rest of the fans that have been watching. Thank you, everybody, for commenting throughout the entire video. I've loved getting to have that conversation piece with each and every one of you. I think it's one of my most commented on videos ever. Makes sense. They all came for Jaylon, so I love that. But it's been great having everybody on in the podcast getting to talk and also the thoughts. So here we go. Not scared of UNLV, three-peat time. We've got Boise State 38 versus 27. So this is actually exactly what you predicted there, Jaylon. So great minds thinking alike there. Let's see. Boise State 27-17. That's a little bit more similar there to what your thoughts were, Jason. A little bit there, at least 10. We got Boise State 40-28, a little bit more in lines with my thoughts. Boise State, Surf City Bill. Always love to shout out Surf City Bill. He's a long-time subscriber, one of my first ever subscribers to the channel. 43-32. Let's see. A couple of these aren't score predictions. Sorry. Boise State wins 42-35. We've got. Sorry. I need to remove these as we go along. Boise State winning 24-13. So a little bit of a lower scoring affair. Weather conditions could happen. Boise State winning 41-21. Again, please make sure you put all of these score predictions down below in the actual comments of the recording because they will go away and won't count for the score prediction. 34-17. I'm assuming if they don't say it, that is Boise State because it's the Boise State channel. 38-24. 38-27, and was the last one that I pinned. There may have been some that came in at the last minute, but I think we can end with this overall thought that this has been an absolutely awesome discussion. Thank you, everybody, for joining. This has been a fantastic conversation. Thanks, everybody, for sticking all the way to the end. It's one of my longest videos ever, too, but it was worth it. Great conversations, great thoughts from Jaylon. Exactly what I expected, bringing that expert mentality from having been through this, right? That's so valuable to get a little peek behind the curtains mentally of what these players might be going through. So thank you for bringing that. And then, of course, as always, Jason, I'm sorry this is the last one guaranteed that we get to do together because I love the fire, I love the passion, but I also love the logical analysis at the end of the day as well. It's been great. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
We'll keep talking, dude. No worry about that.
Thank you, guys.
All
right. Appreciate it.
All right,
all. Thanks, everybody, for coming on. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. Please make sure you like and subscribe to Jason's channel. Make sure you obviously like and subscribe to mine as well. I'll put links in the description to Jason's. Hey, if Jaylon ever gets a channel going, he definitely should like and subscribe to that in the future.
I think I might.
Future shout out here. Yeah, absolutely.
Think about it.
It's been great. You got a knack for it. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Thanks for everybody sticking all the way to the end. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And as always on this channel, no matter what, win or lose, go big, boo!
Boo, baby.